All right. What's up, freaks? Happy Bitcoin Tuesday. Damn, I thought I had a corked pop. It's a screw off right here. It's some Yamazaki single malt. It's okay. This is Evan Kaloudis with y'all to bring you the officially, unofficial, sanctioned but unsanctioned Citadel Dispatch. The show about actionable Bitcoin discussion. This is episode 26 with an asterisk. I say it's an asterisk because we're making some changes around here. Maybe wondering, where's Matt Odell? Where's that guy? I miss him. And to be truthful, I don't know. That's got some pretty good OPSEC. He may have been detained at a border for who knows what, violating money transmitter laws, stirring dissent, maybe. Or he might just actually be on vacation, like you said, or he's trying to save face. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure he did not defect to Monero like we all suspected he would by this point. But anyway, really excited to chat with y'all today. I just had an itch to just chat with all the freaks on this Bitcoin Tuesday in lieu of an actual episode. So really happy to talk with y'all in this sort of new format, right? I want to give a shout out to start off to Jesper. He's in here, I hope, recording the session. Hopefully we can get it out on the traditional dispatch mediums. Jesper runs an awesome website called Ambos. It's a lightning graph explorer. They've got some great visuals. He's working with Tony from Thunderhub on that. So go check it out if you get a chance. That's ambos.space, AMBOSS space. And I also got to give shouts out to our new sponsors, making some other changes on the show. We're introducing mid-roll ads, so stay tuned for the mid-roll advertisements. I've got some pretty good sponsors. BISC, of course, everyone loves BISC. Great decentralized trade platform. We also got some gems of partners in BlockFi, JP Morgan, DHS. So listen to their ad roll reads middle of the show. So that should be fun. And this is going to be a much different dispatch than usual. As you guys obviously know, we're on Twitter Spaces today. So we're going to have a bunch of guests on, probably rotating in and out. I put in a lot of invites out today. So I invited Rodolfo. I invited OpenOms. Tai Kawamoto. Invited Pedro, the real Pedro, not phony Pedro. Jack Dorsey. Doubt he'll jump in, but who knows. And Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum. I know he's a fan of the show. He might pop in. But anyway, there's no fixed topic for today. So we're going to just see where the guests want to up and take it. Hoping we riff for about an hour, see what everyone's up to, and then we'll open it up to the larger audience, do some Q&A, or just see where things go. So without further ado, let's bring on some guests to the stage. Start with Chaz. Chaz from Lightning Junkies. Chaz, you with us today?
With you. One shit-talking moment here for you. We got to get you a setup where you're not just playing music out loud and having your phone pick it up. That sounded
I know, it's
terrible.
awful, right? But at the very least, I think that we'll get past the copyright censors. No promises there. It sounds like no visual component, unfortunately, on Twitter Spaces. So we're gonna have to read off, the prices and all our fun graphs that we usually have just over there. So I'm sure everyone's just noticing how we've got a nice little dip going on today. Woke up and I saw the price was at about like 29,000. So let's check in on the prices to kick things off with. We've got BISC listing the index price at 32,496. And let's see what the exchanges have it at. Go on the crypto watch, check out what BTC USD for Kraken is. We are at 32,448. So yeah, nice little dip. I hope you guys were able to snag around 29 if you are like to do that kind of trading. But yeah, it's just been complete pandemonium as far as the normies' perceptions of things. People saying, "Oh man, price has gone and crashed 50% in the last 2 months. What are you guys doing over there?" Yeah, it's just like moments like this in the cycle that really, really test how how determined you are, how dedicated, your real will. And I think at times like this, we end up seeing some pretty crazy behavior by some otherwise reputable people in the space. Maybe they were over leveraged, lost some money. Now they start promoting some questionable products in the space. It's quite sad, actually, but at least we get to see who's in it for the technology. So it's always fun to go through these dips. But hey, I don't know about you guys, but I still think we're going to crack an all-time high again this year. So let's see how it pans out between previous cycles and where we've been. The economic climate with inflation. Joe Biden's prepping another round of stimmy checks for families in the United States. Bitcoin is really our safe haven in the midst of all this other uncertainty that's out in the world. So God bless it, even if it does happen to tumble down 50% in the middle of a good old rally. All right, let's see
I
who else.
honestly think that the price isn't that relevant. It's probably like the boringest thing going on right now. I think all the things happening on Lightning are far more interesting than worrying about number go up, down, sideways, wherever. It doesn't. I don't. It hasn't really changed much for me.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really affect you unless you're trying to sell, which I know a bunch of us here are just hanging on for dear life. I see a bunch of hodlers in the chat down here. So, yeah, I mean, the fundamentals of Bitcoin haven't changed. If anything, they've gotten stronger. I mean, we've got two humongous pieces of news that have come out this past month, right? We've got Taproot activated, which means we're going to have it's locked in and it's going to be activated in November, but it's guaranteed now. And we also have small nation states adopting it and passing legal tender laws for it. So big picture, how can you be bearish? So we also have Rodolfo. Rodolfo joined us. Really happy to see how you're doing today, NBK.
Good. I kind of got the times twisted.
Yeah, we all got our times twisted a little bit, but I'm glad we got a pretty good showing today, and happy to have you join us today. So what's going on? We missed you in Miami.
I know, dude. I am in the in the Canada gulag, but I'm north and remote, so like COVID idiocity doesn't exist here.
That's good.
Neither do people. That's great.
Yeah, I hear you guys are loosening restrictions a bit. We're talking to who was it? Ben Sessions. He was talking about having to quarantine or whatever.
In the West is a bit better. The problem is like Ontario is still quite bad when you come back. Like you have to quarantine for 2 weeks in like at home, but you might have to do a hotel thing when you come in. It's like a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, that sucks. Yeah, hopefully things liberalize, but who knows in this crazy mixed up world? The control freaks, they're everywhere. really
That's
can't
right.
avoid them. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I saw that video today that was going around on Bitcoin Twitter with the guy proposing we do bioengineering to make people allergic to steak. Like,
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's like, what? Like, I thankfully, people who think like that don't reproduce. So, like, just time takes care of it.
yeah, yeah, that's the one upside. There's that other guy that's a big critic of BTC on Twitter.
Oh,
He's like,
there is a tick, eh? There is a tick disease that makes you allergic to red meat
yeah,
or
yeah, he was
meat in
talking about
general.
it's like the Lone Star tick or something.
Yeah, what a piece of shit.
Yeah, that sucks. Oh man. So we also had Open Arms. I said he got an invite. Looks like he
Hey,
had some
open. He
problems.
just showed up.
I think he had some connection problems. So,
Okay.
so I think that's the reason Jack Dorsey is not coming today, because he would get an earful about me complaining about how Spaces doesn't work and crashes your phone, you can't connect. But it just otherwise makes for a pretty awesome experience, all things considered. I
All
know a
right,
lot of people are
Evan.
going pretty hard on Clubhouse this year.
I'm gonna have to say something. So Taproot is not guaranteed yet at all. Uh, until the miners start actually mining blocks and enforcing Taproot in like very reasonable amounts of hash rate, it's still sort of like, there's a very good chance that they come through with their promise, but Speedy Trial has no teeth.
So you expecting some shenanigans to come up this year?
No, not really. I mean, but it's rough consensus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't trust, verify. So until I see mined blocks over say 80 to 90% of the hash rate, I wouldn't put any money on it.
Well, to that I say I'm glad Matt paid me out on the third period lock-in already. So we got that going for us at least. Now, what would you say to users that are like, no way, man, I upgraded my node to 0.21.1 or whatever, and my node is validating.
No, it doesn't matter. Your node for soft forks like this, it doesn't matter as much as you think it does, because the enforcing of soft forks, like they really it's tricky. Now, if we had the miners lock in with lot true, that would have been different. But yeah, so like it's pretty like it's looking good, but like I would just like sort of like caution people that like because of the nature of how Bitcoin consensus work, and also the like the game theory on like all these actors, nothing is guaranteed until it's in the blocks, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. So yeah, I remain cautiously optimistic. Let's see what will happen from here. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of rooms for shenanigans. Like, we really won't know for sure until it's November and we have it, and
Yes.
the transactions are being processed, and we're using transactions that are using Taproot. So I guess
mean,
we'll
there
find
is
out.
not even implementations yet, right? So it's like so it's okay.
Yeah, it's all still coming together. So a lot of things still up in the air. I saw that maybe an address type had been settled upon, but there's still a lot of other things that are up in the air. So we'll see how it shakes out.
I've been sort of like a bit distant for the last month and a half. Are they going to use SegWit v2 addresses?
I'm not sure. I think it's gonna be they're gonna be like BC1Q or something. Is the last thing I saw.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's gonna look like SegWit, native SegWit, but one letter off. So yeah, I'm sure that won't be confusing. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see as the different wallets and exchanges all try to make sense of it. And, ultimately adoption depends on them. I mean, look, this year we just saw Segwit get adopted by like blockchain.com after 4 years. So
do they have a hierarchical deterministic addresses yet? BIP32?
I'm not sure. I have not used blockchain.com in ages, my friend. There's a couple better wallets out on the market now. So I haven't had.
Oh, really?
There are a few. I mean, that space has definitely made some strides, at least. So Rodolfo, I got a question from a freak in my DMs. Have you heard of any Canadian internet news today? Something about some sort of censorship bill being passed?
Oh yeah, our dear leader here, Castro's son, he shoved through this bill, and of course the commie / Union Party voted with them, and so did the Greens. So it's essentially now, once it's made it into law and stuff, they will be able to censor private accounts where they couldn't before, right? And they're saying that it's only for like big accounts and things like that are acting as if they're news networks and stuff. It's all bullshit, right? Essentially,
like on social media?
Yeah. So they are gonna have the powers to like censor my Twitter if they wanted to.
Yeah, you better watch out. He's off on the Castro jokes, huh?
Right.
Oh man.
Listen, this is the kind of bill that backfires, right? It's almost like fun that they're trying to do something stupid like this, because censoring the internet always works, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's built to route around roadblocks. So let's see how things shake out. But we got this big problem of centralization on these big platforms. Just like the one we're talking on right now.
That's right.
If Dorsey or one of his shareholders doesn't like something we're saying, like Bitcoin Tuesday is not existing on Twitter Spaces anymore. So
I mean, come on, give the guy a little bit more credit. But private platforms are entitled to run it however they want, right? I'm
yes, certainly.
Believer of that.
But in a geopolitical context, they're subject to so much pressure, not only just from their shareholders, but from other parties and governments. It's really a shit show, and that's why it's important to have like these decentralized platforms. Like you ran Bitcoin Hackers on Mastodon, which is a federated network, really cool. And it's also why we champion stuff like Blue Sky that they're trying to work on at Twitter, make it decentralized.
I think they're making an honest effort at that. What sucks in social networks, is that like half the fun is having the people who are not part of your in-group partaking in conversations, right? So like, dunking on Rubini, right? He's not going to come on Bitcoin Hackers. Right? Yeah. So like, it's hard to like, the public square needs to be public, right? And you want everybody else in it too, even if you don't like them. So it's not an easy problem to solve. It's not just the technology itself. It's like the social sort of connections there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's one thing to make a network decentralized, but then it's another to make it usable. I mean, I bet we could both speak to our challenges building Bitcoin products, right? But also having a community come to it and that be like the town square where people have their discussions. So there's a lot of challenges. Even if you nail it technologically, the UX and the social angles are immensely difficult problems. So
remember, right? Like most people, like as it seems, they want censorship, right? They want a lot of moderation control. They want all this crap. Like governments, in a way, are a bit of a reflection of its people, right? For better or worse. So it's like, I can't remember who said it, but like, most people don't want freedom. They just want a better cell,
right? Yeah, they want better amenities in the cell, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So while we still have you here, Rodolfo, any updates on Canadian vaccine passports?
So what I think they're gonna do is sort of like a war of attrition, right? They're not gonna do like like an official passport per se. But so far, as I understand, is that they created an app that, like, if you want to travel without restrictions, you have to upload your vaccine receipt, essentially, right?
Gotcha.
And then you don't have to quarantine, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that, right? But and I also think that countries where Canada can sort of swing their dick around, they'll just say you can't, like, get visas to come to Canada without vaccine. But then countries like that, Canada is on the weak side, right? They'll totally sort of let them through without vaccines. They're just gonna have to probably quarantine. So they're just gonna try to, like, through attrition, make most people vaccinate. But what's funny is that Canada doesn't have enough vaccines to do it. So it's kind of like a tricky one for them to sort it out.
Now, if I want to visit personally, do I have to show proof of vaccination, and do I have to quarantine? Say I'm coming from New York, say.
U.S. So I don't think. Yeah, you should be able to come because I think they opened the borders already. But if you don't want to quarantine with partner countries or whatever the fuck, if you show your vaccine stamps, you don't have to quarantine. But then if you don't have vaccine or stamps or whatever, then you do have to quarantine. I think they're getting rid of the gulag soon, which was some rented hotels that were like absolute, like, shit, where people had to go for 2-3 days and do 50 tests or whatever. Um, and now I think what's going to happen is, if you're a Canadian resident, when you come back and you don't have vaccines, you have to stay home for 2 weeks.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
But you should be able to come now.
Yeah, I mean, I've been meaning to visit, so I'll let you know when I'm in that neck of the woods. I also bumped into that Tahini's guy. I forget his name. He was in Miami. Every time I saw him, bumped into him like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, oh man, I got to go to Canada and get some of this food. So yeah, I'll let you know, my friend, when I make it up there. Maybe you take me hunting and you're part of the wilderness.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
So would you mind if I jumped in here really asked NBK a question?
Yeah, go for it, Chip.
So I know this isn't Lightning Friday, but what's your current status on Lightning Network hardware, man?
So Lightning has some inherent issues around hardware, because Lightning requires statefulness, right? Like chain state. So it's very hard to make air gap solutions with state, right? So it's just like, so it starts from that premise, right? Okay, fine. So you can connect the code card to the computer and use it via USB. Um, I I was under the impression that some people have open and closed channels using Electrum with a cold card as the signer. I haven't tried it myself, but I would start there. And then, if somebody can make a PSBT sort of glue program, or some PR on Electrum or whatever, we should be able to sign it, right? The biggest bottleneck is this: we don't do stuff that is not standard. Period. If it's not a BIP, we're not gonna probably support it, because we want things to be a bit more future proof, right? We don't want to create our own way of signing Lightning or whatever. So we use PSBT as the sole way of getting stuff in and out of cold card for signatures. So if somebody makes a opening or closing channel PSBT file, for lack of explanation here, DEPIS, that should be signable, because it is a standard Bitcoin transaction, right? It's just multi-sig transaction. And then going forward, though, we do support libsac, right? So We are using the libsec the K1, right? So the master of that lib, and then we're just too swamped to mess around. But people interested in messing around, they could try to load the ZK1, which is the experimental libsec, and that one can do all the things that people want to do with the coming features, right? So all the taproot stuff, all the schnorr stuff, and all those things.
Sweet.
But again, it needs to be PSBT route.
Do you see yourself doing, more Lightning stuff as time goes on, just by like a byproduct of, things improving and things like that?
Um, I mean, so I like Lightning is super cool, right? I think personally the future of Lightning, especially because of its inherent statefulness and lower amount, actual value amount transactionness, uh, it's more of like a phone wallet fit or a server sort of side fit, right? I think that's more where things will go. I think the large majority of Lightning stuff for consumers will be custodial or semi-custodial, um, because the aside from privacy considerations, the risk of financial loss is much smaller, right? The You don't have to be concerned about like losing $10. So if you have, say, a year or two from now, say, uh, like a semi-custodial Lightning wallet on your phone solves some of the privacy considerations or improves the privacy considerations, it's going to be hard to compete with that for the average consumer or even the more advanced consumer. Even I use custodial Lightning wallets on the phone. I just like it's just too much. Like there's a lot of stuff happening in Bitcoin. Uh, we focus more on large money being stored by sort of self custody, right? So people that want to hold their own Bitcoin. Um, how that fits into Lightning, it's tricky because it's a whole other universe of like things for you to develop, and we don't want to spread ourselves too thin. We really want to focus on securing your Sats, and then you move your Sats from a cold card into your Lightning wallet, whatever that is. And if cold card can sign Lightning for closing and opening channels, especially on the server side with the CK bunker, then that's great. But like doing cold card for consumers to sign LN, I don't see the point.
Can I jump in here very quickly? Hi.
There we go. We got Open Noms with us. We've overcome some technical difficulties. What's going on, Noms?
Yes, very good. Thanks. I've managed to be up on my Calyx OS phone, which is an achievement. It just throws out. I mean, it closed the app the last time I've switched the microphone on, but now it's working. So, yeah. Hi, Ivan, NVK, Chaz, everyone, Christopher. I found this. Obviously, the cold card PSBT function very exciting, and I just would like to point out that there's been a big improvement in the new LND release, the 0.13, which makes you able to import external XPubs into the on-chain part of the LND wallet, which could be a cold card, right? So
Yeah,
It could be a lot.
that's
It could
pretty
be a
cool.
lot of things. It could be your
yeah,
samurai
it can be a
mixes,
multi-sig
maybe. It could
account.
be a join market, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I had a couple of ideas about this already, and the big thing is that it uses a PSBT format, so it's not something new. Obviously, for like Samurai, you would need to convert it to a raw transaction, but that's not difficult. It can be done with like Bitcoin Core or Electrum or Samurai might at some point might be able to sign PSBTs as well. But in any case, that account which you import can be multi-sig or can be like total core storage, and you can construct PSBT with LND, which I'm sure we will see graphical interfaces for, like, Thunderhub or RTL or even Boss in the command line, and you will be able to pass that on either the usual way through an SD card or like or through a QR code to your hardware wallet, including cold card, or with the CK bunker, you could actually make some kind of API or even a command line interface, as MVK pointed out on the Twitter thread, that it's already possible to kind of run a CK bunker and then paste PSBT on the command line and have it signed according to the
So
rules.
I'm so glad you brought this up, because this is what I want to bring into Zeus as the biggest new feature on the redesign. I would like people to be able to craft channel opens and then be able to open them from the device, like a hardware wallet device with a camera and QR code scanner that, like say the Kobo Vault, or what's the new one, the Keystone. I know there's also
Spectre
the
DIY.
Spectre DIY, which I want to put together. And of course, I've been berating Rodolfo over here to release his own cold card QR product. So Rodolfo, I know you're just fudding QR codes and scanners because you're dragging your feet on getting this release out the door. So can you quit doing that? Can you send me a prototype and we'll work on the validation, the confirmation phase? Because the problem is the user not validating that data, right, on the PSBT stuff.
Yeah. So there's a few things, right? I mean, there is a lot less need than people think for a hardware wallet that can read QRs, because and I'll tell you this from like what's not like, it's not, this is not the shiny sort of like experimental stuff that people love to talk about on Twitter, but like just from like the we have a very decent sized user base, and most people, one, are never going to use a phone for large amounts of money, even if they're using a hardware wallet, right? Because you cannot control your privacy on the phone properly. I mean, sure you can if you do graphene and you put Tor and then you run your own node on the phone. All that's
It's
right.
not trivial.
Unrealistic.
It's definitely not trivial.
Yeah, exactly. So what people do is, and this is the large majority of the people holding money that matters to them, right? Like, so more than spending money, they have a spare laptop or even their main machine where they have Bitcoin Core, and then they have Spectre, they have a Sparrow, they have Electrum, something like that. And that's sort of like their money machine, right? And then they use that machine to talk to the cold card, either via USB or via SD card, only when they're going to sign, right? So oftentimes that cold card is not even on the premise of where the computer is. So the microSD shuffle is a lot more important than it seems, right? The USB shuffling of data means you can take the data from the money machine, your laptop, that's like sort of like your bank machine, right? All the way to your secret location where you have your hardware wallet, without carrying the actual hardware wallet with you, right? So the hardware wallet never leaves your secure location, and never goes any place that radios are accessible, like nothing, right? It just lives in some dark place, and that's where it goes. And that's not even to count, if people are splitting things, if they have passphrase or whatever, right? So the problem with incentivizing people to use QR codes on hardware wallets is that you're making easy for them to have the device in their hands where they shouldn't, right? You shouldn't carry your hardware wallet around with you.
So let's bring that back. So you're saying that when I'm scanning QR codes, I got to be within line of sight, whereas with a micro SD card, I could just put the PSBT on there and take it to another location.
That's right.
Interesting.
And then there is also, so it's like a bunch of like little UX things that do cause people to lose or not lose money, right? And then of course there's like a lot of people fall for evil QRs. Not that the microSD fully solves that, but it sort of pushes away the QR from view at all, right? I have to say we're not building a QR code capable device. That's just not our priority, but it's sort of like a side project that we have for actually quite some time. It's just that if you're going to build a hardware device that has QR capability, then not focusing on the HODL, but focusing on other things that you want to do with QRs, you want to do with stagefulness, seems more useful.
Interesting. So, how do you think you're going to proceed forward then with the cold card line? Is there not going to be a model now with the camera and the color screener and whatnot?
Yeah. So what we're doing is Mark IV is like focus on increased security, but it's like between quotes infinite memory, because it's just like it's a few orders of magnitude more memory.
Wow. Multiple orders of magnitude?
Yeah. Like that's why we joke internally, it's like relatively speaking is infinite memory. And many other sort of like capabilities in that spectrum. So like much bigger chip family. You know, we have some interesting things going on in secure elements.
Wait. Did you say secure elements plural?
I think that was noise on the line. Yeah, like the focus is that, right?
Okay.
So it's like, you know, we're going to refine the plastic a little more. It's the same. It's like clear, but like we want to just sort of it's Mark IV, so it's incremental, right? The QR camera stuff with bigger screen and all that stuff, that's a separate product line. It's not going to be the MK line.
It's going to be for people who don't need as hardcore security. They're willing to add other dependencies into the stack, including that camera.
Yeah, it's like more complexity. It's you know, it's going to be able to do more things, but it's going to have different set of trade-offs, right? It's like a different beast.
For sure. Cool. All right. Well, you know, I might as well just give you my money now because I want both those products.
Wait, let me send you an LN invoice.
Yeah, there we go. For those who haven't been following me and Rodolfo going back and forth on Twitter, I say I will implement Lightning Network payments on the CoinKite shop if he gives me an original block clock. Rodolfo, offer's still on the table, but you know, if you want to sub that out for a nice selection of the new cold cards, you could work something out.
I don't have more OG block clocks. That's it.
Are they all gone now?
Yeah, whatever we made is sold. I have my own stash, but that's it.
Hell yeah. Well, congrats, man. You've had a hell of a year. A lot of people picking up that block clock mini. I'm happy to see it a whole bunch of places. Anytime I hang out at a Bitcoiner's house, it seems like they have it. So, yeah, props to you for making another great product there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a fun space to build stuff too.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, who else we got up here? We had Justifer up here, but I guess he dipped. I hope he's still recording everything. Yeah, this is pretty much a free-for-all, folks. If anyone wants to get in on the mix, let's see. There's
Justifer. Can I?
Oh, go ahead, Rodolfo.
No, I'm
sorry if I cut you off.
Yeah, no, I thought no worries. My connection is shit here, so like I keep on not knowing when things start and things end. I'm actually curious for open noms. Like, was it you who created the open and close the channels on Electrum with Hardware Wallet, or like I think you did something if I remember right.
Yeah, I put together a guide on satbase.org, which is like my little blog website. So I wrote out a guide to use PSBTs with Electrum to batch open channels, and that also uses the Balance of Satoshi's tool, or the BOS tool. So yeah, I've got a guide on that. The issue from like a UI perspective is that you only have 15 minutes to actually construct the PSBT and sign it.
10 minutes.
Right.
The current version. So that
Could you can you push that through the CK Bunker API? Like so like say you have a cold card like hot connected right to the computer, just sort of send it over for it to sign.
but potentially, I'm not familiar with the hardware and going through that process, but maybe OpenArms might be able to speak to that.
Yeah, I didn't try that kind of workflow. You have actually only have 10 minutes, not 15. So it's a bit low, but that's why CK Bunker would come even more useful. Yeah, that's one of my projects I'm really looking into to kind of implement CK Bunker properly and start to play with it. Certainly possible. I mean, it's a PSBT, so it should be able to sign.
The opportunities that signing and opening channels with a PSBT provides, it also enables you to batch open the channels, so you can actually realize quite a bit of savings, and then which means that you can increase your profits as a routing node if you just batch open channels.
Yeah, and you don't have to broadcast them, right? So you can have in your hand a whole bunch of different sign transactions, just unbroadcast them, just hold them, and then pick the one that makes the most sense. Like you could have different fees set up on them.
No.
And not have the device connected anymore.
So the way it works, you need to communicate with the Lightning peer first to establish the channel. So then you will get the multisig address from that interaction, and you need to send the agreed amount to that multisig address within 10 minutes for the request to be live still, so for the peer to accept the channel and the channel to be open. So that's a time limit. So this is not about like justice transactions or anything else. This is just the actual channel funding workflow.
Cool.
And also, I mean, PSBT support is big. I mean, in C Lightning as well. They're actually their kind of basic channel opening flow is based on PSBTs. Like they didn't even implement anything else, which is great in terms of compatibility and just constructing all kinds of transactions. So
do they look like
losing you just a little bit?
Do they look like standard Bitcoin transactions, or is there anything sort of like non-standard about them? So it would be just, the hardware wouldn't even care.
No, it's just a send to a funding a 2-of-2 multisig address. That's the transaction. There is nothing.
Well, there you go, Evan. So your problem is solved already. You just gotta use it.
There we go. Just gotta put it in. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I've just been messing around with all the PSBT stuff. Hopefully I could put it out with a bunch of the Zeus updates with the redesign and whatnot. It's going to be a fun summer, let me tell you folks. It's busy as hell, but it's well worth it. Yeah. After the show, I'm trying to pick up my my Keystone device too. Lixon sent me one of the new Kobo successors too, so be messing around with PSBTs, air gapped with QR code and camera on that front too. So a lot of tools to mess around with.
Yeah, the most extreme kind of use of this kind of function is to coin join into a Lightning channel, which is already possible with join markets, since you are able to pay to an external address with a coin join with join market, using your own amount, no pool sizes and such. But only problem is that for now, as we don't have taproot outputs yet, and obviously Lightning channels are not using taproot outputs either, it is obvious which output is sticking out, and that output would belong to the taker as well who initiated the war transaction. So like you do a 9 participants coin join and only one address is longer, which is a 2 of 2 multisig. So obviously, that is being used to that was the one which belongs to the initiator of the channel. So of the coin join. So if you have a minuscule chance because you only did one coin join, and you would have a chance to kind of identify with this coin join Sudoku who was the taker, then you could basically have a link there, which is not a good idea to have. Also because of the time limit that you have only 10 minutes to do this, and you need to coordinate with all the other participants. You could be out of time as well. So that is not something which would be recommended. But it will.
So in Rodolfo's situation, where he's like going to an undisclosed bunker somewhere, he has to get there within 10 minutes and load up that transaction and sign it.
Well, you can access it on a hidden service. Yeah, I would probably access it.
That's right.
Through an auto thing.
That's what you would do.
Yeah.
There we go.
So on the device you're using to be essentially your Lightning HSM, that wouldn't be on. Like, I mean, you can still put it on a remote location over Tor. That's what the CK bunker was designed for. But like if this is just your channel sort of management tool, right? You don't have to have all your life savings there. Right? That could be in your house, and you're going to be just fine. Your TV is going to probably be worth more. So I don't think that's like the security profile there. That's a concern.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is with having using an external wallet with Lightning, that you can also specify the channels to be closed or to an external address at 2 times, either when you are opening the channel, so it can be only closed to that address in a cooperative case, or when you are closing the channel, you can also, if it hasn't been decided yet, then your side of the amount, you can, for your side of the amount, you can specify an address, which can be an external address, and it can be a code card. And then obviously, if it's been already kind of imported, the export was imported to LND, then it can be streamlined much better. So once you close the channel, then you have it in cold storage straight away.
Now that's pretty nice touch. But when am I going to be able to have my channel close, go right into a coin join transaction? That's when things get really fun. I know we're going to get a lot of enhancements with Taproot. We're going to obfuscate our channel opens and close in that regard. But when can I take it the extra mile and throw it to a proper coin join right out of my Lightning channel?
Well, why don't you just feed it into your Join Markets maker wallet?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, that's what you have to do right now. But if you had some way of divvying it up and splitting into like the exact size pool and it kicks off a transaction, that would be something else to behold. But hell, we're heading in the right direction, and we've already got a great array of tools to help enhance our privacy, and we know it's going to be getting better in November. Fingers crossed, hopefully the miners don't screw us, right? Rodolfo was alluding to earlier.
Yeah, no, it's like nothing is given, right?
Nothing is given. Yeah. Don't trust, verify, as they say. So let's see. A lot of awesome stuff going on that front. And I think in the next year we're going to see a lot of better user interfaces to help make those interactions better.
Evan,
you're not...
why don't you send LN to Liquid BTC, do some rounds there, then peg out?
With the confidential transactions?
Yeah,
well,
it's a nice little mix there, and it's cheaper fees too.
I think Greg Rubles was talking about this on Twitter a little bit. Greg is from Blockstream. He's a really fun follow, Grubles. And he was talking about how L2 can let you swap in and out different commitments from like different side chains and whatnot for your channels. So like taking funds from LN and using that to do like a liquid transfer, which was crazy. It was like way over my head, but I think things are going to become quite interesting, the interactions between Lightning and Liquid. I mean, right now, today, you could go on Liquid, right, and spin up a LN node on that, and you have those assurances because, those channel opens and closes are with confidential transactions, right?
Yeah, I mean, like the trade-off there is the federation, but like,
They could collude.
I feel like people sort of hate a little bit too much on that. Like, I don't know of a lot of stories of people being censored on Tether, right? Tether is fully censorable.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, Tether is essentially like completely disrupting the offshore bank account, right? So if you want to hold dollars and you don't want anybody to know, just use Tether, and they're not really going to censor individuals. So when you think about how much better the federation system is on Liquid in terms of like censorship resistance, like I think it's totally worth playing around with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Liquid is like head and shoulders above existing custodial solutions, right? Where only just one party has to be like, okay, this is a no-go, I'm taking your funds. So what is it? It's like something like 3 of 15 at least at the collude, or maybe it's higher.
Well,
but...
so it's tricky, right? If I remember, if they have a problem, it drops from whatever the big quorum is to a much smaller one, a 3 out of 5 or something like that. But even so, I mean, like it's fairly distributed. The actors on it are reasonable for now, and eventually there should be a competing federation, right, for Liquid too. Which I think would actually make Liquid even more interesting, even the Blockstream Liquid, let's put it this way. I think they should incentivize a competing chain. Gives cover, but yeah.
Absolutely. While we're talking about Liquid, gotta say, anyone who hasn't should go back and find the Citadel Dispatch with Wiz and Adam Back. They go really into the weeds on Liquid and how the Federation works, what the restrictions are, potential scaling issues. Like that was like a really long rip. I don't think I've heard Adam Back do that long a talk. And it was probably one of my favorite podcasts that Matt's put together on Dispatch so far. So check that out, freaks. I don't know the number offhand, but I'm sure you can find it on citadeldispatch.com with a quick search.
Yeah, the big thing with
Oh, I'm sorry. I hit the mute everyone button. This UI is awful. Sorry, Noms.
Okay, sorry. That's fine. So just a note on the confidential transactions that, when there was this sweep spike, I was like, I had a little chat on like IRC about what would take for joint market to run on Liquid, right? Because it's the element D is quite similar to Bitcoin D. There are just a couple of things which you need to change to be able to construct transactions on Liquid rather than Bitcoin. But there is actually, because of the confidential transactions, you don't need equal amount outputs. You need only basically batch transactions with multiple participants. So you can go into a Telegram group. I mean, okay, maybe not Telegram Matrix or like XMPP or something, which is more private, and pass around your kind of PSBTs with peers you don't need to know, and you just signing your inputs to go to your outputs and merge them together, and basically it will appear as a coin join, because the amounts will not be seen. So it's quite interesting, but obviously you have the problem pegging out. But then,
using IM for node coordination was a thing back in the day. For people that don't know, there was an IRC channel for you to find Bitcoin nodes, and then Electrum nodes too for some time.
yeah,
That's pretty amazing. I did not know that. This must have been pre, the initial seeds and whatnot, run by everyone. So you would just hop on there and say, "I need some peers. I'm not sinking." Well, I guess that makes sense. Like if you try to take like a shitcoin node, you know, I'm not proud to admit it, but I was helping a friend sync their Dogecoin node to dump their coins, right? And you know, if you don't have ample peers, you cannot sync that thing. It's ridiculous. So they go through all these hoops of like downloading torrents with the vast majority of the blocks. So yeah, I guess it makes a lot of sense for people to be advertising that they are out on the network on something like IRC. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, this is more about like manually coordinating batch transactions. It's not really like obviously you shouldn't connect to other people's nodes, if especially if you don't know them. And also, if you're sharing your transaction, then you're sharing all the data which is within it. So it's not a recommended thing. It's just could be kind of a proof of concept to start off. Kind of quasi coin joins on Liquid, and then obviously you could automate it with some peer-to-peer communication system.
Didn't Join Market also had at some point IRC too, if I remember?
Join Market does communicate in IRC, but those are anonymized bots. So
that's right.
They don't give out all the information. Only if they engage in the coin join, then obviously they tell about their inputs and outputs to the taker, who is the coordinator and who also pays the fees. So that's why it's the most private way to use Join Market is to be a taker, to initiate the coin joins and coordinate in the same form. But yeah, all the communication is still in IRC. So there is like a public order book, which is which is like 2 or 3 IRC servers, which are obviously public. So the bots advertise the amount offered, which are all randomized, so they cannot be correlated to the actual value held in the wallet, and also the amount and the fees they are offering for. And then when there is matches with a taker, then the communication would be in encrypted DMs still on IRC. So there is obviously some flood protection there, so you cannot go really higher than like 15 is already 15 participants in the coalition is already kind of pushing it. So usually.
Wait. So is this the default mechanism for JM?
Yes. Yeah. It's.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yes.
Did they ever implemented the fidelity bonds, or no? That never happened, right?
Well, it's not like never happened. It's in progress, right? In the next 0.
Right. Okay.
So Join Market just had a new release now, which is like a kind of a minor release, right? 0.83. With loads of kind of efficiency gains and some privacy improvements and some algorithmic stuff, bug fixes, etc. But in the next major release, 0.9, it is planned to have the fidelity bonds merged in and working. I mean, it's already, the PR is being reviewed and tested since many months now. And I mean, there is progress in there.
Awesome.
And then also, I mean,
it's great. It's great seeing how these like projects, they've been around so long and they're still iterating. There's always something to improve on JM or all these projects.
Yeah, I mean the communication layer. Obviously, I mean IRC is something which is reliable and it has been working for 5+ years now. But comes with trade-offs. I mean, you need to sometimes jump IRC servers. Like it's like JM wasn't using Freenode. Except for their kind of developer chat normal communication channel, but some servers obviously go down and then you need to change, or you need to change the address, the hidden service address, and etc. And obviously there is the flood protection, which is like a rate limitation. But I mean it is one thing which someone could take and improve upon. There's been like work proposed and partially done as well, but I mean, as any open source project,
OpenOM's like off the shelf. It just works. I mean, you got to be just a little bit more technical to use JM, but for people that haven't tried, I highly recommend it. Like because you actually make money as a maker, So you put some funds in a machine you're gonna run this thing, and you just let it run. You set your fees, and that's it. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I would say it's quite. So the income is very much comparable to kind of an amateur. Let's say, I mean, everyone is an amateur pretty much, except like Alex Buzzworth, but to an amateur routing node, the income on JM is comparable to that, except there is no way to lose money in the coin join as a maker, because obviously only signing transactions which are bringing some fee to you, maybe only a couple of satoshis, but you always gain privacy.
And there is no babysitting either, right? It's like set it and forget
Set
it.
and forget, exactly. I mean, that's what happens on the joining box as well. It's basically just
Yep.
runs as a systemd process, and until it gets shut down, it just goes in the background and does its communication. Over Tor only. Yeah, it's great fun. Try a join market, and then it's the thing is that you don't end up with fixed amounts, but you have a wide range of, if you start with a big UTX, so it's broken up to smaller ones. If you have a lot of smaller ones, then it can be merged together through coin joins by others as well as by yourself if you are opting to be a taker. So the thing is, you will have a wide range of amounts available to open a channel. So if you just want to construct a PSBT from that, you can import your XBOB to the NND wallet now, or you can just do the external funding with the balance of satoshis or with C Lightning, and you can just choose the UTXO you would want to spend, and obviously account for some fees. And if you prefer privacy, pay higher fees on the transaction and don't create any change. If you want to be sure that your transaction goes through, even if there is a fee spike, then you must think of creating a bit of a change to be able to CPFP, charge paid for parent, the channel opening transaction, because if it doesn't get into the blockchain in 2 weeks after opening the channel, then it will become a stale channel, and it can be stuck if you lose your information, because the peer won't take any note of it anymore. So your only chance will be to force close it yourself. So yeah, there are some things like that using external wallets. But yeah, I think with Anthony, we've been going through of this question about how to best to use the coin control in Lightning, which was, just coming from the different sides of UTXOs in the join market wallet, would you do the coin control the best? And as we said then as well, that for privacy it is best to just use one UTXO without the change, but then you are exposing yourself to the risk of getting stuck in the
No, so I have one question. What's the volume looking like over at JM right now? I haven't been on a while, and
yeah,
what's
any questions on these kind of things? I seem to just keep going on these.
No, so I have one question. What's the volume looking like over at JM right now? I haven't been on a while, and what's the biggest and smallest order I could get filled over there?
Well, smaller orders. You can always. There is the Nix Bitcoin team does run a public OB watcher, which is not a public order book watcher, which is for which you don't need to spin up your own instance. So if you go to nixbitcoin.org/OB watcher, then it's all there. It's just the offers from the others.
But it varies tremendously, right?
Yes, it does.
It's like you could have thousands of coins, or you could have just a few hundred coins, right? It's
and it's usually few
sort
hundred.
of all over the place.
The top is usually few hundred. Very few would go to. So I would say, I wouldn't be comfortable even if I would have that kind of amounts at hand to go and join anything which has less than 10 makers available, let's say, because then you have hardly any one to choose from, and then very easy to kind of build it. So
Evan, you can put your 50,000 coins there as a maker. You do well.
Yeah,
I'm pulling up the site right now. I'm on nixbitcoin.org/obwatcher.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, it looks like there's some pretty big orders listed. So the counterparties all can list their minimum and maximum sizes.
Yeah, and you can list
as well as their different fees.
If you click on the top of the road, and you can list by the maximum size or the minimum size. And I mean, overall, the very small ones, I wouldn't really go under like 100k satoshis maybe. I mean, there are plenty of offers now at like 30,000 satoshis. I mean, that a significant part of that will be a fee if you go coin joining.
Wow. Okay, so I got it now. So we got 527 orders here. We got 325 counterparties. The max size anyone's willing to do looks to be 320.5 Bitcoin.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
So consider that.
And the smallest.
And it does go through, man. If you watch that, you will see.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and consider that.
And the smallest looks to be like 2,730 sats, which is pretty incredible too. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's just someone's setting.
So yeah, definitely a nice distribution right there as well.
Another interesting thing on this is that if the volumes start to grow, if they see action, they will make more coins available. They will make more entries there.
Oh yeah,
it's fairly
absolutely.
dynamic. Yeah, like you see, there's people sort of watching this well.
So what you need to consider with this maximum size is that there are 5 mixed depth in the join market wallet, and you can only coin join at one time from one mixed depth. So if you keep rolling these coins across, through coin joins across the mixed depth, then they will basically have a close to kind of an equal distribution between the 5. So someone is keeping their 1,000 bitcoins on join market for a couple of months, then they will probably end up having 320 or 200 in a mixed depth, but there will be almost 5 times as much in the whole wallet, right? And then that was actually a change in the latest release, that so far as a maker you would offer always from the smallest kind of the least the smallest mixed depth you had coins in, but now the maker kind of will try to fulfill the coin join in a way that it will accumulate the coins in one mixed depth, so it can increase its potential maximum size rather than creating this equal distribution. But still, coins will be distributed between the 5 mixed depths in anyway. So
now, for someone who might be new to join market, how would you describe a mixed depth? Is that anything like your anon set, and how do the two relate?
No, it's a mixed depth is just 5 accounts, right? So it's like 5 derivation paths of the same XPOP or the same seed, yeah. So as you can create those in Ledger Live on one click, right? or you can have it on any kind of hardware wallet or Electrum or anything. So you could import these seeds to other wallets as well, because it's all BIP39 compatible. So it's just 5 accounts where you would generally fund one, or you have if you have different sources of funds, you could deposit to one from this exchange, one to another one to from another exchange. Maybe if you have a non-KYC source, you would deposit it to the third mixed depth. So these coins won't mix without a coin together without a coin join, right? Because that the way join market works, when you make a coin join or when you're participating in a coin join as a maker as well, only the coin join output progresses to the next mixed depths, like from 1 to 2 or 2 to 5, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and then 4 back to 0, and then 0 to 1. So that's how you have the 5. It's circular obviously these are scripts which you can edit. So, you can have like an acyclical distribution, acyclical kind of movement of coins as well. But by default, it is going through the 5 and back to the first through coin joins. So if you deposit to different mix depth, then these coins won't be merged together. And also the non-mixed output is not being mixed with the coin join output, right? So it doesn't happen like, there is always like a third coin join implementation, which we like to say that it is not very well implemented, that with one click you can just send all and, batch together, merge together the non-mixed changed with the mixed outputs, and then it just takes away all the elements that you are accumulating. With join market, it is segregated, like has the same idea as it is happening with like Samurai Wallet, that you have a premixed wallet, or your deposit wallet. Like in Samurai Wallet, it's called wallet rather than account, but it's the same thing. It's just another derivation path. So you deposit to one, and then you mix, and it goes to a post-mix wallet or another account, and then the unmixed change is actually going to a third account, which is called like a bad bank or like a toxic change, right? So that way it is separated, and you cannot send from all the wallets in Samurai Wallet or all the mixed depth in join market. You cannot, by default, you cannot construct a transaction which is sending from more than one mixed depth. So this is automatically done during when you are a maker, that you can only send from one at a time. Does it answer the question?
Cool. Yeah, sounds like a very in-depth way to manage your inputs and make sure they don't get mixed up and potentially compromise your privacy.
Yeah, so that's the point.
Cool.
That's the point of
Thank
having.
you for that explainer.
It's a very underappreciated project because it doesn't have a marketing team.
Yeah. There's no one that's going to come and yell at you and be very aggressive about why you're not using join market.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a great mixer. I really am a big fan of it. It's definitely got its own nuances to it. There's definitely a bit of more of a lift to use it, but I'm glad it's now implemented in Raspberry Blitz, and you have the Join Market project, the Join Box project that's integrated there. So that's awesome. I would really like to see it implemented on more node platforms. But yeah, it's really cool. It's completely different than having like a coordinated, centralized coordinator that's putting the mixes together. And it's all done with a market model, which is super unique. No one else, to my knowledge, is doing something like that. So I'm really glad it's around. I'm really glad people like you are putting time to maintain it and make it better and make better UXs for it. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I like it because I use it myself, and just wanted to streamline it. That's what the joining box is about, and also it can be.
I mean, that's how the best projects are made, man. Just scratching your own itch to get something done, and if anyone else likes it too and happens to use it, that's just a bonus.
Yeah, exactly, and having like contributors to this. I mean, that's really great to kind of have people coming in and then like just fixing this or that, or just even opening issues or giving some feedback is very useful. And the other thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to underscore that you don't have to be a programmer to help out with any of these open source projects. There's so much work that can be done from just being a user, reporting issues, giving feedback, testing and testing beta releases, or even doing something like helping with the translations on like a Transifex or something. There's so many different ways you can help contribute to these projects. So
yeah, documentation is the biggest thing, because all the developers, they can be very good, but it's very difficult to kind of make the documentation for something which you wrote the code for, right? Because obviously it works. It's in the code. Why would I need to, it's like writing.
Yeah, you understand it. It's like you almost have to step out of your shoes and see like what an outsider would perceive everything. That's what I have a problem with now with Zeus. We're working on new documentation sites, and yeah, like I can't be the one to write it. I'm too close to it. So all I can do is like try to get the perspective of other people, help with the copy, and
It
just
can't
try
be
to
worse
steer it.
than ours. We don't even have search.
Oh man, that's all right. Pop in Google. But yeah, that's definitely one of the big projects we're putting together alongside our redesign this summer. But yeah, documentation is tricky. So folks, if you're thinking about projects you like and you're not quite a programmer, there's tons of ways to get involved. So
Come redo the docs. Come improve
yeah,
the
come
docs.
help the cold card docs, please. Rodolfo needs it direly.
Yeah.
So yeah, just get involved, be vocal, try to reach out on the platforms that these projects are communicating on, whether it be IRC or their forums or the GitHub. And there's always plenty of work to do with these projects.
Yeah.
So
many times you
get involved, folks.
Yeah, many times you need to start it. Why would I want to do this, right? Why do I need to run a full node? Why would I want to connect a wallet to it? Why would I want to coin join? And yeah, that's all very valuable. People who are kind of just spreading the word about why these things are important and why we need to do this and be very kind of hard line on using these tools which are available to us.
So to open arms, I have another question for you. So how do we get more join market users? Do we just need a better or simpler GUI? Does it need a mobile app? Well, what do you think?
Well, I mean, obviously an API would be great. I mean, I'm not at the level where I could make it, but I can support it, right? And there is work done to that extent. But I mean, it's like it's Voxwing being the main code contributor and kind of coordinator of the project, and like Chris Belcher and a couple of other people who are working on it, like Christoph's Kope. I mean, he's actually working a lot of like little UI things and fixing bugs and stuff. But then some people are just so much.
But these are programmers building UI, right?
Yeah, they're so much more interested in the protocol or like what other cool things we can do, right? And how can we make it like more private. Yeah.
What would be amazing is like you have projects like Blue Wallet has a tab called Join Markets, right? That you just put the money and you press a button.
Yeah.
Right. That's like if you want normal people to use it, you want this very sort of toned down, pretty sort of phone wallets. The phone wallets are interesting because they are stateful, right? And they're just always connected. So that could be an interesting thing. And then if you're putting 1,000 coins there, then you probably want to do it from a secure computer, but different problems.
I mean, one thing is that obviously the number of makers. When I was started to kind of look at join marketing, about like 2 years ago or about, we're hardly hitting like 100 orders, like 60 to 90. It was obviously, it was still on like the wrapped SegWit addresses, and managed to kind of have enough adoption of native SegWit and also a bit of push from the community to kind of move over to the native SegWit addresses. Like when was it? Like I don't know. Like was it a year ago, half a year ago? I mean, it wasn't too long ago. But then now there is a sudden jump of in the number of makers only, and then you can actually obviously just scan the blockchain. There is a script in the join market kind of repo to do it, to identify join market coin joins as well, and there is like 30, 60 to 100 kind of transactions per day being done with join markets.
Noms, they used to have a lot of users, but this was way back when that project started. When was it? Like 2015?
Yeah.
that this came out. Yeah, it was around.
2015, yes.
There used to be a lot of users. Yeah, and then sort of like it sort of slowly weighed off. It seems like it's picking up again now.
Mm.
But there used to be all the crowd that had a need for privacy that was a little bit more needed.
And also,
The
yeah,
average
and
user.
also they didn't care about the fees because it was,
That's right.
I mean, obviously much less value then. But I remember like there's like a tweet from Chris Belcher from like 2015 that that was a good day in join market. I made like 0.3 Bitcoin on it. Right? That's just,
Jeez.
Yeah.
That rules.
yeah, it is crazy. How many coin joins you need for that, right? It's like hundreds. So yeah, I mean the usage, I think obviously the awareness needs to be put up, and then I mean these things cost money. So I mean after all, you want to be a taker as well. So okay, you can make some strategies to being a maker, but to gain proper privacy, you need to alternate the roles, and you want to be a taker as well. Then you need to pay first. I mean it's almost negligible what you need to pay for the takers because everyone is like breaking themselves to get into the coin join, so they just lower their fees to close to zero. But the transaction fees are obviously can be significant, and we expect the transaction fees to be quite high, going forward, and that certainly does take down the activity, the on-chain activity. And then
Yeah, it looks like Capsodel is a spy in the audience now. You're
that's
supposed to
great.
be working here, dude.
Let's invite him.
Hold up, I got it. Damn, they let him out of early, man. Department of Homeland Security let you out of interrogation early. Can't believe it.
Or maybe
Usually-
maybe it is them using his phone.
It could be, the deep fakes. You could do a voice changer. We'll test him. We'll know for sure. That is if he joins. Who knows? But while Matt tries to join, or maybe not, Noms, does Join Market have any like bounties? Because personally, I would really like to see an API get built around for it. That would really extend the use of it. So is there like a bounty system, or do we have to put one together ourselves to get this made?
Well, there was
Yeah.
already a request coming from like Nifty Lisa to kind of somehow coordinate with the dual funded channels and coin joins. Yes, but obviously an API would be a big step forward. I mean, the thing is you need to motivate the people who are able to make it, who are probably already existing kind of join market developers to do it. Yeah, I mean, surely there was quite significant bounties from like have put them on anyway for like just coin join implementation, right? Which was like jointly taken by like Wasabi and Samurai as well, right? Or I'm not sure. I'm sure that kind of the first kind of user-friendly coin join implementation bounty was taken up by Wasabi, when they've started, and it was quite a new thing and impressed everyone. But yeah, there should be. It's not.
Yeah, it just seems to me like since there's no financial incentive for like the centralized coordinator, because there is no coordinator, right? It's not like
there is, right? I mean, like if you are people who want to have more privacy, especially if you have a lot of income, it's probably in our interest to make it easy for people to put in their clean coins in there, or even their sort of more complicated coins in there to get all mixed in, right? You are looking for more liquidity in there to get more privacy.
Liquidity, more takers as well.
Fair, that's fair.
So more usage. Because I mean, by default, if you just run, I mean, you have like a join market queue.
Some technical difficulties. I can hear you, Evan. Yeah, some connection issues.
Oh, did I lose you? Or is it just me?
Do we have you back?
Uh-oh. Some technical difficulties here.
I can hear you, Evan.
Yeah.
Yeah, some connection issues. Noms, what were you saying? Do we have you back?
I think have I been away? I still have the captions going for myself and for you as well.
Interesting. Yeah, we lost you there for a second. But yeah, we're just talking about potentially, getting an API for this thing and supporting this thing. If we have an API, we'll get more liquidity in it. That should be incentive enough for some of these big whales to contribute to a potential bounty, right?
Yes, I mean there are a couple of write-ups done for like a loose architecture, and yeah, I think I've already spoke to Fontaine from Fully Noded that he would want to plug into that, and then obviously he was interested until I've seen that there is not much to plug into so far. But yes, this is up for discussion for sure.
Interesting. I'll have to get a little more involved on that front. That's definitely something I'd like to see between that and tying into Lightning Channel opens. A lot of exciting stuff going on that front.
There are things which, like, there is this. I mean, I obviously cannot speak in the name of anyone who is related to kind of this Open Sets project, But this is something which, or also the HRF, this is something which they would probably be very happy to kind of.
Yeah, so if anyone, if by chance there's anyone who might be involved with OpenSats listening, take a note. We'd really like to see something like this happen. Might end up taking this API and working on an app myself for Mobook combination. I got a freak in my DMs. He's saying he's down for 1 million sats bounty. So any potential devs thinking about implementing it, the sats are coming in from the freaks. A lot of people are interested in it. And I guess the point I was trying to make earlier is that since there's no de facto central coordinator to have the incentive to be iterating on stuff, we as a community, we have to make sure we step up and make sure that we're contributing either with code or financially to the projects that, or projects or efforts that we want to see built.
I mean, obviously here the challenge is that you actually don't have a central server, a coordinator to plug into, right? So, I mean, so you would need to run your
feature,
join market
not a
node.
bug.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, this is the implementation which you cannot run without having Bitcoin Core fully synced, right? So, and you need to, you can connect to someone else's Bitcoin Core node, but that would be, not that easy, and not a default kind of behavior for anyone. So, the thing is that you would still need to run your node, and for that, I mean, you really need to have like a remote. I mean, yes, Zeus would be a great remote to send kind of geomarket transactions. But what you can do is, take those XPubs and construct transactions, and there is, as with CK Bunker, same with join market. You can just paste a non-signed PSBT, a construct PSBT, which you can just sign with the wallet tool after giving your password, right? Not your passport, your password, right?
You need to provide your to bring it back to earlier. You got to provide your vaccine passport to Mix.
Yeah, no. So you can sign an externally constructed PSBT with join market in the command line, or like with join inbox, you can just use that little menu which I've put together, and I mean, it could be probably implemented in the Qt interface as well, and that's how I would really kind of send money out of there, not with a connected light wallet or like a mobile wallet, to be honest, but
just coordinating from another separate wallet, right? That just has the XPubs, and then when you're ready to add them to the pool or whatever, you just move them over.
But it's also it's very technical to kind of run. I mean, very technical. So you need to jump that fence to be able to run your own nodes and just set up join markets and have it running to be able to connect back to it, right? So it's not like
Yeah.
a central service with an API which you can just plug into and use.
Yeah, remote controller,
it's
just
available.
like we do on Zeus. Yeah, that'd be really cool.
So it's similar with Lightning, right? That you will
Exactly.
either use a custodial service, which you should. I mean, with Lightning you do because it's only pocket money. But obviously, with your significant amount of your savings or your like months of salary and stuff like that, you should put it into a custodial coin join, or not even like any custodial mixer. There's been just a post by Bitcoin Q&A about him being approached by someone who has lost his money using a website, which I won't say here, but it's an obvious scam, advertised to be a custodial mixer. So that's a huge no-no, right? So you would only use your own node, and that would need to have it running. And then do you then need a remote control?
Yeah, definitely not trivial. Definitely a lot of challenges in there, but at the same time, that's the ultimate. It's definitely worth pursuing, and definitely worth trying to get some people trying to make it all one comprehensive experience on the go. So let's see. And it looks like people are willing to put up money towards it. I got another freak on top of the original one in my DM saying they're good for another
Evan,
1,000,000 sats.
Privacy is only for people that have something to hide.
Yeah, I mean, if you, it's only for people who don't want, people you send money to know every damn thing, I mean, we got to be open about it with a transparent ledger without mixing, right? And second layer tools. Bitcoin is like the perfect surveillance technology. So we need to take advantage, right, that we have that surveillance technology to get assurances about Bitcoin supply, but also B, need to counter that in our own economic transactions. So it's hell of a dichotomy, let me tell you. But it's definitely worth fighting for, in my opinion.
Would in your opinion, a web interface be, considered safe enough, be useful to do this? Because obviously now, what I built with Joining Box and what is available is like you have a Qt interface, which is somewhat kind of you need Linux to run basically because on Windows it's just not solved how to run your own node and set it up behind Tor and everything else.
It's just counterintuitive when you're on Windows. When you get down to it, the Windows platform is just like a giant piece of spyware.
Yes,
it
exactly.
Sucks. And Mac OS is much better in that it's based on FreeBSD, but it still phones home, and there's a lot of bloatware. But yeah, you really need FreeBSD or Linux. Rodolfo left before my FreeBSD plug. But yeah, you really need, if you're worrying about stuff like your privacy, you really do need a stack that's based on free and open source software. 6102 is messaging me. He's saying build it into Sparrow. That would be incredible too. Hell, I think these tools should be built in and have compatibility with each other as much as possible. Like when you talk about having support for this in say Zeus or something, like I would also love the ability to have your Samurai PSBTs, not your PSBTs, your XPubs to be imported, your XPubs, YPubs, ZPubs, everything. Same for, pulling it from Cold Card. And I think a lot of things are going to be built up to go into that direction. We just need the application protocol interface to be able to communicate to it, Nam. So let's see if we can make it happen.
So would you guys mind if I kind of brought us back to where we started on the join market part, where we were kind of talking about Liquid and Lightning here?
Let's bring it back, Chaz. Let's bring it back.
Sure. So I was talking to Fiat Jeff, and he seems to
love that guy.
What's up?
I was sorry to cut you off. I was just saying I love Fiat Jeff. He's a great individual.
Right. So yeah, like that was a really fun conversation. But the point is that he was kind of alluding kind of what you were saying before about using Liquid and Lightning at the same time. Maybe a small distinction there, but like he was talking about using Lightning on Liquid with Bitcoin Lightning, basically using a bridge. And he was talking about that if it was set up correctly, that you'd be able to route between the two networks. So the thought that I want to throw out there is, that the way that it makes sense to onboard to Lightning right now might be both on chain or directly over Lightning via someone else providing that liquidity. But in the future, you might be onboarding to the Bitcoin Lightning network via Liquid Lightning. Just a random ass thought here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would solve the
absolutely.
peg out problem. Yeah, that would solve the peg out problem as well, right? Because you would free to leave through these. Basically, you would peg out on Lightning, which is, I mean, much less traceable than on chain.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see like each hop, like let's say on the Lightning Network, potentially advertising like their liquid Lightning routes too, and saying, okay, yeah, I'm good for it. I will accept your liquid Lightning sats. They're as good in my eyes, or maybe you have some sort of weird ratio at which you'll accept them. But yeah, things are going to become a lot more dynamic on that front, and things are going to get quite interesting with those sort of cross sidechain swaps as far as LN stuff goes. So, obviously a lot still has to be built out, but I definitely see the potential for that being a pretty dynamic ecosystem.
Yeah, I just see for the trade-off, you would just charge large routing.
Exactly. So like your routing fee on one of the networks might be larger if you're doing a swap to another asset. Like if you're going from Lightning to Liquid Lightning, you say, okay, I want to do the swap because it's going to cost me to peg out, so my fees are higher. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Evan, you are breaking up.
Oh no. Uh-oh. Let's see.
I think we just lost him there.
Can you guys hear me now? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes. No, you're back.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, guys. We seem to have some technical issues. It's not quite as smooth an experience just connecting through our traditional channels for Citadel Dispatch. But still really appreciate chatting with you guys all on this format. It's been so much fun. But yeah, there's definitely going to be, I think we're just scratching the surface with this stuff. Like Lightning is just starting to really get used now. And hardly anyone uses Liquid right now, right? So the next, let's say, 4 years are going to be really interesting to figure out, all the use cases for them and, the interoperability between them. So a lot of exciting stuff on L2. Yeah, go ahead, Noms.
Oh, yes. I'm not sure. Just tell me if you don't hear me well. So that it would be very interesting that people would, which direction it would be. But I was thinking that how funny it would be that you would have very cheap kind of on-chain transactions on Liquid, but then the Lightning network on Liquid would be so expensive because you would just charge to provide the service by fees. And it would be the complete opposite of what happens on Bitcoin. But the flow of funds would be that obviously they would be moving in Liquid on chain, and then they would move out through Lightning. So yes, you could charge the high routing fees, and people would get privacy in this direction.
So I just wonder if we're going to see routing nodes that are routing across multiple Lightning networks. Like I don't necessarily want to get into the subject of shitcoins here. I'm on shaky ground with Liquid, I'm sure, with some people, but I still see block space on Bitcoin being insanely valuable at one point, and so you're going to have all kinds of different entry points. So you might have an entry point on shitcoin's Lightning network as well. I'm not aware of any other Lightning network that's even half as relevant as Bitcoin's Litecoin's Lightning Network has like $30,000 on it compared to Bitcoin's like 50 million or 60 million. So it's
there's a couple. Someone forged Zeus on some shitcoin called Grosso Coin, and yeah, it's just floating up, I think, on the iOS App Store. So I guess they got one. I really don't know how much capital is up on there. But Chaz, I think to answer your question about like interoperability between them, beyond thinking about something like RGB on Lightning and Omnibolt or whatever, the interoperability works because at the end of the day, we're talking about the same units, right? Like a liquid sat and a lightning sat are pretty much, supposed to be the same value. So when you're adding like other units in, like a Litecoin sat, like then things get hairy, and what do your channels even mean at that point? It gets complicated.
I guess maybe my point went too off the rails there, but kind of bring it back to reality here. If we're just to stay within maybe just Liquid and Lightning and maybe some, theoretical blind state chains that would come after we get any Prev out in L2, I just see that you're going to have some nerd sitting here with a Raspberry Pi making all kinds of money doing these kind of providing liquidity in different ways for different privacy services for your join markets, for your Lightning networks, for your Liquid routing. Like, what other fancy sci-fi shit can we think of here?
Well, I think you're totally on the money. Like, people just connected to all the different services that have their thumbs in all these different pools or whatever. They have liquidity going all these different ways, and they're just a router. They're just an operator at the end of the table. Like similar to a phone operator, and they're just making sure your sats get from one destination to the other. And that could be their whole career, just facilitating that liquidity from one place to another for a party. All sorts of swaps, all sorts of coin joins. I don't know. It could get really interesting, really.
Is it possible for us to get Christopher back up here, just to kind of maybe hear his thoughts on throwing Liquid into the mix and how it would make his life a living hell, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, that would be great if we could get Justifer up here.
If he wants.
Let's see, hold up. Yeah, no pressure, bro. Just make sure we're still recording. We'll give him a second. I want to make a correction from earlier. I was calling Amboss Ambos, but it is pronounced Amboss. So that's Justifer's Lightning Network Graph Explorer. You should all check it out. If you're into UI or messing with these Lightning backends, you should definitely get involved with that project. It definitely has a lot of potential, and I've been finding myself using it a bunch. Looks really nice. Not going to join us, Justifer? Oh, well.
That's fine. So something kind of totally different that I wanted to go into here versus just staying on that topic is something that I'm not concerned about, but I think it's just going to happen just because Bitcoin's ecosystem is just slow to roll out updates and things, is Taproot. Oh, Justifer, before I go too far, would you want to comment?
Oh, there he is.
I might have missed the initial comment. I did hear the Amboss shout out, so thank you a ton for that. But I missed the question, sorry.
So we were just kind of talking about, you're a Lightning node operator at the moment. Do you like or hate the idea of potentially adding Liquid into the mix and expanding the definition of what a node operator would be? Right? Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about it. It's come up a couple of times, and like in some of the like the arbitrage things that you might do as a router, where basically you're sending it to yourself through complicated means, but you end up trusting some custodial entities, and like as so for me, for example, I'll deposit funds into a Bitfinex account, because it's, you know, zero KYC. But it only works at scale. So I end up having to deposit lots into there, and sometimes I run out of liquidity. So as an intermediate step, involving liquid in that step is pretty exciting, where I could trust, you know, the entire federation instead of just one singular entity. So that's it. It already makes kind of a natural marriage there, but then also from some of the privacy tools that are available on Liquid, I think it makes total sense. I mean, as far as Amboss's like business case for that, just being able to like kind of coordinate the different market participants, like that's a huge business case for us. So pretty excited about the other integrations, whether it be Liquid or other Lightning protocols.
Do you see yourself being some kind of state chain, blind state chain signer? Or maybe a better question would be, do you see yourself kind of, or people in general, maybe just individuals offering these kind of services to people, you know, maybe a business or maybe just an individual being altruistic kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of an open market, so yeah, why not? Should get them all participating, and you know, see what shakes out and what's sustainable. Oh, I got 6102 in my DM saying no privacy tools other than confidential transactions. It sounds like on Liquid.
On Liquid, yeah. I mean, people think that a confidential transaction will just give you the same privacy as a coin join, and that's not really the case. So that's why Odell was sort of campaigning to get some sort of coin join mechanism going on there. And then 6102 also hit me up talking about going from Liquid Lightning to Bitcoin Lightning and how it would be a swap. And someone needs to be making on-chain Bitcoin transactions to keep those channels balanced. So I guess that goes into different roles that people could play in terms of being connected to these different networks and providing services to get sats from one place to another. And he says, yeah, it's not 1-to-1 on Lightning SAT versus a Liquid SAT, because you have to take into account the cost to peg out. So perhaps when you're doing a routing transaction for going from one place to another, and you're crossing from Bitcoin on Lightning to Liquid or vice versa, you have to take into account the cost to get there. So and then some, so it's economically viable to you. So there's going to be a lot of different. So yeah, great point, 6102. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of interesting different markets that arise around these use cases for people who are got their funds in one form and need to get it somewhere else in another. So it's going to be really interesting. I guess a big challenge in it is like broadcasting, like what your rates are and how to get it there, and facilitating that in the first place. I think that's what's really being built out right now. I think it's starting like right now with, say, like liquidity on Lightning with stuff like LN Pool, and say the broadcasting of like getting liquidity that they're working on over at C Lightning that Lisa was talking about on our Lightning Friday session. So yeah, it's just about like how do those mechanisms work, and then these transfers are facilitated, and how these market makers advertise their rates at which they're willing to perform these liquidity functions. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see these things develop over the next couple of years. I'm super stoked.
I think it's really fun to kind of just watch the market shift as they get as the different participants get more information about what the market is. Because I know we got C Lightning liquidity ads. That's like around the corner. But then there's also like the pool auction results, and kind of comparing that to like where the mempool is at. So there's all these different kind of like market forces, all these tools being developed, and then there's the mempool, which is going to kind of determine some of the pricing. I'm curious how like channel stability is going to play in there if people are ending up with force closes and such, and I'm not sure how that's going to work between Lightning and Liquid becoming more married.
Yeah, it's interesting to see like how that's going to play into like ranking of nodes. Like BOS scores, they have some ranking for like uptime and reliability, right, as well as the quality of your liquidity and the amounts of it. And it's really hard to sort of quantify the value of those things. So these different algorithms sort of calculating it. I think there needs to be a couple more competing ones before we find that sweet spot. It's all sort of experimental right now. I know some people who've may have been messing around with their BOS scores. Maybe they're in Lightning terminal and they see it fluctuate a lot. This is really the frontier of things. We're figuring out everything right now. Like exchanges don't, for the most part, other than like Bitfinex and OKCoin, like they don't have Lightning yet, right? Hardly anyone is using Liquid. So we need to go through like these price discovery phases and, figuring out which of these properties bring more value to the table as far as like your uptime and your history of channel closes and all these things. And these reputation systems do need to build out right now. It's pretty interesting and pretty awesome just seeing it all be made from scratch. These are things that like weren't around like a year and a half ago. Like even 2 years ago is just really when Lightning started getting exciting and usable, really.
Yeah, totally. The scores. I think there's lots of focus on the BOS score, but I view it kind of just like your SAT scores or your GPA. Like it's not going to follow you around forever, and maybe that's not the best metric to determine whether you're like a valuable human being or not. It's just one score. It's just an opaque score, and there will be many more.
Yeah, there's going to be the kaloudis score. I know Odell's score can totally be one in the mix. So who knows, man? I mean, we all just need to put it to practice and see how it pans out in the market and see if these scores actually end up being of value. So here's the time. This is the time to experiment and figure out what works, what doesn't, what has value, what doesn't. So it's really exciting.
So I had another
All
question.
right,
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Chaz. Go for it.
How much of a pain in the ass and how long is it going to fucking take to get Taproot widely adopted? Was going to be my question.
Holy shit, hopefully not another 4 years like we saw with the SegWit stuff from, say, entities like like blockchain, right? Blockchain.com. Yeah, this has been really a tooth pulling for the SegWit stuff to be adapted widely. Hopefully it doesn't take more than a year or two this time around to see this Taproot stuff really be taken into account. But at the same time, it also has like much different use cases. Whereas something like SegWit and native SegWit, they pretty much cut down on costs all around. It's not necessarily the case for these new Taproot addresses. Like I believe it's more expensive to send to them, but is then cheaper to receive. So people really need to figure out the dynamics around that as well. But I feel as exchanges are like using stuff on second layers, like Lightning specifically, in which Taproot's going to provide them a lot of privacy, not leak out that information to their competitors and whatnot. I think then when there's these economic incentives for the actors themselves to be using them, then that helps facilitate things a lot more. But also, the powerhouses in the space right now, I think they're more conscious of it. They're listening to their users more than, say, like blockchain.com, right? And, there's always going to be stragglers, right? There's always going to be some business that it doesn't make sense for them as far as engineering resources. But I definitely feel that this time around it's going to be much better off.
Yeah, I think first they will have the ones who actually benefit. So the ones providing service, the vaults, the multi-sig services, etc. Probably Lightning, hopefully, will be not too far behind. And then once you get a good amount of adoption, then you have the privacy services coming on board as well, because they would need the anonymity set. They cannot be first. So then you can think of Joy Market adopting, hopefully Samurai adopting, hopefully, Wasabi. Probably they have their Wabi Sabi thing coming by then, and then you will have a good chunk already.
Definitely. It's definitely going to be the Lightning people who, they're the ones who stand to benefit the most from the privacy gains. So definitely we're going to see it on the implementations like LND and C Lightning before a lot of these other services. So absolutely. Oh man, we're coming up on 2 hours, folks. I think we're going to call it soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want.
Did you think?
Sorry,
I was just thinking of one thing that I've seen one pretty graph amongst many, which is the Lightning liquidity increasing. In the past couple of weeks, month maybe.
Hell
we
yeah.
are past
that's one graph that's
1500
going up
now.
and to the right for sure. So we're definitely up in
Yeah.
all-time high. That's why I'm in good spirits, folks. The regular price doesn't really concern me as much. As long as that Lightning liquidity is going up and to the right, I'm a happy man.
Yeah, and it's still just the public capacity.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like what percent do you think is in private channels? Like at least another 30%, I would say. Maybe I'm bullish on private channels there, but
no,
at least 20%, right?
I think 30% is the pessimistic take of 30% being in private channels of the public capacity, because that was in 2018, was it, when the BitMEX research have done this kind of analysis, and they've come out with this very rough estimate. Because you can't really tell if the private channels were closed in a cooperative way. It's actually not that straightforward to filter all of them out. But now you have plenty of services which are known to use large private networks. So there might be exchanges, but we certainly know about Strike, which is must be a significant participant of the network, and I wouldn't be surprised if it will be comparable to something like Alan Big. I mean, okay, maybe not, but there is plenty of things which do work like that, and like other service providers, like all the custody of wallets, all the kind of Lightning gaming and such things there. To be able to have the buffer of liquidity in case of big peaks of usage, then you must have private channels ready and armed, right? And that might be even higher for things, for example Strike for sure, but for other services as well, it might be higher than the public capacity. Just think of services running with multiple nodes. They probably, because there is no risk to them, right? It's a 2 of 2 of their keys. There is no risk to put any as much as they can afford into those private channels to have it just available anytime they need it. So
yeah,
I
I mean,
think
it's not zero,
pessimistic.
not zero risk, but minimal risk. I mean, it's a hot wallet, right? You
Okay.
still have things going
sure.
on, but and you also have to stake up the money ahead of time, right? But no, I definitely see big enterprises, especially where they have crucial relationships with each other and they have these flows going a certain direction, they're definitely going to have private channels. And they're going to have these channels and not want to broadcast them because they want liquidity in that direction for those crucial enterprise functions, right? And they don't want other people just taking advantage of them for their own economic needs, right? So they're going to keep them private. They're going to keep them between their counterparty and themselves. And they're going to use it to settle their, pretty much their scheduled transactions and be able to save on fees because they only have to commit to the on-chain fee ahead of time and on close. And, if it's a multitude of transactions, 10, 25, 50 transactions, saving so much money. So, I definitely think a lot of the private channels are not going to be just users trying to, use Lightning more privately. But actually, there's big enterprises that want to have these liquidity channels with their partners, but they don't want people to just be using them willy-nilly. Or, alternatively, they can just broadcast higher fees so people don't use them. Like maybe it's economically feasible for other people to be using those channels as well as they're willing to pay the routing fee on it. But I think in a lot of cases, people will just want to not even disclose that relationship to the rest of the world and be like, okay, our channel between each other is just going to stay private. So I think that's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the node behind Moon Wallet, for example, right, or Blue Wallet and things like that, these are nodes which are not huge, but I mean, their public capacity is even some of them lower than a Bitcoin, it's 1.5 maybe, but you can imagine that they have 10,000 users, right? So there must be a lot of liquidity behind that, which makes it possible to work and not cause payment failures when they people start to withdraw money or they try to pay things en masse suddenly. So it would be very surprising to me if that would be that true kind of capacity which they have on there, and those are just a couple I was able to spot. And there are a lot of things the nodes of Strike, for example, they are not even known to me. So there's plenty of that. So yeah,
Excellent.
Lightning Network is growing.
It's exciting stuff. We're definitely going the right direction. So I'm excited to see more and more of you guys out on there, open up channels, using it. I know in Miami, a good chunk of the transactions I saw were people transacting on Lightning instead of on chain. Hopefully next year all the vendors are accepting it. That would be a nice touch. And it's just going to continue to grow. I mean, now we've got a whole bunch more awesome user-friendly solutions, even for noobs, in the form of stuff like Moon and Breeze. Wallet of Satoshi and Blue Wallet have been really big custodial solutions. But now we have some solutions that are, only somewhat custodial in how they do their channel opens. And in the next year, we're going to see some stuff like Rust Lightning and that LDK be used way, way more. And people are going to take channel management into their own hands too. Just a matter of liquidity services coming up, education. There's a whole bunch of new UX to the Lightning Network that, a typical Bitcoin user might not have been familiar with. So a lot of challenges, but glad to see them being addressed. It's really awesome to see.
Just based on what we got, 1,700 Bitcoin. I was talking to Lightning Labs the other day, or talking to Ryan Gentry about kind of their predictions for how the Lightning Network will grow, just based on what we've got, 1,700 Bitcoin on the public Lightning Network capacity. So if 10% of the transactions on the main Bitcoin blockchain move over to Lightning, what type of growth would be expected for the Lightning Network as a whole? And the number that he threw out was about 100x growth for the Lightning Network. So, but I haven't gotten to verify that myself.
Yeah, so then at that point, the real challenge is, I think, lie in like routing. Like, how do you route when there's so many damn hops? And are there services that take over that route calculation? What exactly happens there? So it's gonna be interesting to see what scaling problems arise at that point. But yeah, something like 100x growth would be unbelievable. And hell, like we're at really low capacity now. Does anyone offhand have the public capacity of the Lightning Network right now?
It's just
You know what?
shy.
I'm gonna go to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I was gonna go to Clark Moody's dashboard. Shouts to Clark. Great Bitcoin.
It's, I was just checking it. It's just shy of 1,700 Bitcoin on the public Lightning Network.
I see. Yeah, that's only like. Well, I mean, our price has just cratered the last 2 months, but yeah, that's just 52 million, right? Damn. Wow. Yeah, those are rookie numbers. Well, let's pump those up. Let's get a cool 5 billion on there, and we'll talk from there.
You first, dude.
I'm trying. I'm gonna. We're getting pretty close over at Kraken, so now I'm getting to the stage where it's like, okay, let's put some real money on this. So I'm not sure Jesse will say, okay, here's 5 billion. But if we could pump up those numbers in the right direction, that would be nice. Oh man, guys, honestly, I'm getting beat. It's been a good 2 hours. Maybe we bring up anyone else who might have a question real quick, and we call this wraps in the next 10 or 15 minutes. All right, let's do it. So anyone else in the room who wants to come up, ask a question to anyone, feel free. You could send a request over here on Spaces. If not, then I'm just going to probably have my buddy Tai Kawamoto come up and tell the story with me about how we were dealing with a bonds broker this weekend at our buddy Zach's house. It was pretty much 7v1. This guy who was a bonds broker versus like pretty hardcore Bitcoiners, 7 of us. And yeah, it was a bloodbath. It was mainly my fault because I was just hammered. I was just off my gourd, and I ended up yelling at the guy. But we were never gonna flip this guy anyway. Ty, come up, buddy, for 1 sec. Come say hi. You know the freaks loved your dispatch appearance, and they want as much of you as they could get. Ty, come on, it's peer pressure. There we go. What's up, Ty?
Yeah, that was a crazy weekend, man. We were all fucking hammered, but yeah, it was kind of crazy because like we were like 3 hours into drinking. Was that before or after we had all those shots?
No. I was just like, oh man, that was just like a train wreck. We got the shots afterwards.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, guys,
All
we
right.
need to drink.
I mean,
we drank so much the timeline got
yeah, the timeline got a little bit messed up, but yeah, no, he was like a legit dollar maxi. To the point where like I think at one point he was like defending the military industrial complex, like the petrodollar. He's like, the dollar system is supported by our military, our glorious military, or something like that. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, did that really happen, or am I just making that up?
Yeah, and he got really defensive about it. You said in jest, you're like, oh, what a noble cause.
Yeah.
And he's like, I didn't say noble. This guy's putting words in my mouth. He was like, jumped from like 1 to 100.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just the wrong room for a bonds broker to walk into. It was a really good crew of us. We had Pedro, the real Pedro, I will say, not the fake Pedro.
Not McCormick Pedro, like Pedro. Yeah, we had him. We had the Bisc guys there. Wiz, Steve, and Simon were there. Obviously, you.
Yeah.
Who else was there? It was a good crew in that room. I mean, obviously, like
And-
Zach
and Uncle Zach was in there for a bit. Follow Uncle Zach. He's in the room down there.
He's great.
Yeah, it was just ridiculous. But despite that, we definitely didn't flip the guy.
No.
But he did make an interesting comment that I thought was really funny. Like, despite our difference on the views of like bonds and dollars and Bitcoin, and despite the fact that he thought that Bitcoin had the potential to destroy the planet and the environment, despite that, he still thought it was a good idea to allocate up to 5% of your portfolio in Bitcoin. And when I hear stories like that with people who are so entrenched in the fiat monetary system, I know that we're winning, and it gives me so much hope.
Oh my God!
I just wanted to share that. I wanted to share that story with everyone. I thought it was hilarious, despite me sort of just being a drunken mess with this guy. It just really was a great illustration of the strides that are being made, despite us losing 50% of our value in 2 months, despite all the things that are going on and the affinity schemes and all the shitcoinery still going on. Like, we're making strides in the right direction that are ultimately going to change the course of humanity and the world. It's incredible.
Oh, agreed, 100%. Yeah, that was such a bullish conversation. He was like a dollar maxi. Like I'd never seen anybody like that. Like maybe like Joe Weisenthal, like his level, or maybe even like even worse. But
yeah.
Man, I mean, and still he says 5% allocation. So how bullish is that?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. That was definitely one of the highlights of the night. Yeah, and then from there, we proceeded to get really drunk. Went out to 2 bars. It was great hanging with y'all. I loved it.
That was fun. Yeah. I see Zach there. Thanks, Zach. It was good time as usual, and can't wait to do that again.
Absolutely. All right, so I don't think we're topping that. So on that note, we got to call it here. I want to thank everyone who got it. Oh, actually, hold up. We got Johns in. We'll get Johns in real quick because I love Johns. He's a great contributor to the community. He's been helping out some on the Zeus redesign. What's up, Johns? Anything you want to add?
Oh, well, if you're going to end it on that, I think might as well do that. Because it was a...
Johns.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, John, just shouts to you, man. Thanks for hopping on the stage. Next time we do one of these rips, you got to come on, and then we got to rip more.
Definitely.
Maybe on Lightning Friday, I think we're going to do Chaz, what time are we doing on Fridays? We do 4 p.m.?
Yeah, 4 p.m. Eastern.
4 p.m. Eastern, back on Twitter Spaces. We'll be at it. Hopefully Citadel Dispatch is back on its normal programming next week. This has been fun, but I'm sure I want to do it every week, despite me be doing so many episodes. Yeah, this has been awesome. Thank you all. Thanks to Justifer and Amboss for recording. Thanks for Chaz for asking great questions. Open Noms for telling us all about Join Market and his efforts there. Ty for the story. Rodolfo for all his insights about Canada and CoinKite and all that stuff. And, of course, everyone tuning in and supporting and listening, the freaks that are hodling, the freaks that are building. I appreciate y'all. And on that note, I'm going to call it here and do my little outro music. So cheers, freaks.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.
And a world governing body will be created to enforce them. Crises precipitate change.
Secretly plotting your demise. I want to devise a virus to bring dire straits to your environment. Crush your corporations with a mild touch. Crash the whole computer system and revert you to papyrus. I want to make a super virus strong enough to cause blackouts in every single metropolis. Cause they don't want to unify us, so fuck it. Total anarchy and get nobody's progress. You see, late in the evening, sparked up on my computer and my mind starts roaming. I create like a heathen. The first cycles of this virus I can send through a modem. Infiltration, get your station. No Microsoft or enhanced dots will impede. Society thinks they're safe when bingo, hard drive crashes from the rending. A lot of hackers tried viruses before, vaporizing text like so much whiteout. I want it where file replication is a chore. Lights out, shut down entire White House. I don't want just a bug that can be corrected. I'm erecting immaculate design. Break the nation down section by section. Even to the greatest mind, it's impossible to find. I want to devise the virus to bring dire straits to your environment. Crush your corporations with a mild touch. Trash your whole computer system and revert you to papyrus. I want to devise the virus to bring dire straits to your environment. Crush your corporations with a mild touch. Trash your whole computer system and revert you to papyrus.
The plan is programmed into every one of my 1,000 robots. We will not hesitate. We will destroy the Homo sapien. Please stay where you are.
I want to develop a super virus, better by far than that old Y2K. This is 3030, the time of global unification. Break by Tuesday. Terminals, burn them all. Slaves of silicon, corrupt politicians with leaders and their keywords. FBI and spies stealing bombs to simply take their plans in their face and catch the fever. Everybody loot the stores, get your canned goods. Even space stations are having a hard time. Peacekeepers seek to take our manhood, which results in the form of global apartheid. Ghettos are trash dumps with gas pumps exploded and burnt out just before the Great Union. The last punks walk around like mass monks, ready to manipulate the database or break through them. Human rights come in 100th place. Mass production has always been number one. New Earth has become a repugnant place, so it's time to spread the fear that's fun to serve.
How long have we tried to extend our glorious empire out to the stars? Only to be driven back.
I want to devise a virus to bring dire straits to your environment. Crush your corporations with a mild touch. Trash the whole computer system and revert you to papyrus. I want to devise a virus to bring dire straits to your environment. Crush your corporations with a mild touch. Trash the whole computer system and revert you to papyrus.
That's it for this week, freaks, junkies, Bitcoiners, all y'all. Love you. Have a good one.